Portions of KDKR's daily programming do not necessarily reflect the views of the management or staff.
Prudent Money with Bob Brooks is sponsored by the Prudent Money Foundation on 91.3.
Could we be seeing rapidly falling prices in our future? Today we're going to take a look. Stay tuned for Prudent Money. Good afternoon and welcome to the Prudent Money Radio Show. I'm your host, Bob Brooks. Thank you so much for joining me today. You know I do appreciate it. Well, if you got a question for me in these very confusing and complex times, hopefully I've got an answer for you, but try me out because I probably do. At least I got an opinion. And you can do all that at prudentmoney.com. And make sure that you do use that resource because that is there for you. And it's the ministry of everything we do. And it's something that's always been very important to me because I want to make sure that you have resources and that you can get answers and opinions. I can't promise you what my opinion will actually be right, but it is my opinion. And you can get some resources by going to prudentmoney.com and just sending an email in, and we'll get you taken care of there at the website, prudentmoney.com. Well, before I jump into today's topic, because I definitely want to be talking about this, I want to keep the dialogue open about inflation and what to expect. There's so many wild predictions that are floating around about inflation and what's going to happen, and a lot of it is what I call the gloom and doom forecasts, which are a lot of just sensationalized marketing. You got to know that. It's there to get your attention. You know, think about this from the standpoint of marketing in this social media climate that we all exist in. You get bombarded, I know I do, by emails, texts, and throughout the day, various social media outlets. There's just so many of them, you can't even go through and name them. And what's going to catch your eye? Well, a prediction the world's ending tomorrow might catch your eye. A prediction that the debt markets are going to implode. We're just a few days away. A prediction about on such and such date something's going to happen that could affect your retirement. You better read this one. A lot of that going on right now. And there is a lot about inflation and whether it's going to be hyperinflation, whether interest rates are going to go up or going to go down. I'm going to talk a little bit about what I am seeing, what I think could potentially happen. And I also want to be sensitive to the fact that not everybody who listens to me can just process this information, process numbers. That's for some people that's a strength, and for other people it's not. I do think though that there's a little bit in today's program for everybody that everybody can agree on and understand. So I'll get to that in a minute. I visited for a long time today with a listener, and I always love to get the opportunity to do that. And he wanted to talk about debt consolidation loans. And it just sparked an interest after visiting with him that, boy, this is something I need to go back over, just to go over a few things, because everybody's looking at their credit card debt right now and wondering what's it going to take to get out of this hole that I feel like I'm in. And it is a brutal situation, depending on, of course, the total amount. But even for somebody that may just have $5,000, $7,000, or $8,000, $10,000 worth of credit card debt, and even if you don't have any credit card debt, you think that sounds like a lot. But I mean, you're talking $50,000, $75,000 to $100,000, $150,000 worth of credit card debt plagues some people's lives. It doesn't really matter what the amount is. What matters, though, is it affecting you as a person? Is it affecting your stewardship relationship with God. That's the main thing. And then what is it that is going to help you get completely out of it? So a debt consolidation loan, I'm going to define what a debt consolidation loan is based on the real thing and based on a fake thing. And this is really important that you get this. A debt consolidation loan, a real one, is where a bank, credit union, or a lending institution will set up an account and will draw up a loan for the purpose of debt consolidation, will hand you a check, and you'll have a regular payment that will come out each month, and then at a certain date in the future, based on that payment, based on that interest rate that's locked in, you will have all that debt paid off. Now, and I'll get to that. So you'll have all that debt will pay off. So the characteristics of a real debt consolidation loan is there's a payment, there's an interest rate that's guaranteed not to go up in most cases, and you know that by a certain date, whether it be 5 years, 3 years, 7 years, you're going to be completely paid up and paid off. And that is a true debt consolidation note versus one of these companies that you go to that I write about in my book, Deceptive Money, that are debt solution companies. You know, these are the companies that you hear advertised on the radio, and they talk a lot about the stress you're under, but don't worry, 1-800-GET-OUT-OF-DEBT. I just made that up. I don't think that's a phone number. But 1-800-GET-OUT-OF-DEBT, just dial us and we will get you completely out of debt. We'll cut your interest rates in half, we'll cut your payments in half, and we'll get you out of debt in no time at all. That is the debt solution companies, and they'll call it a consolidated note. Can I urge you, please, to stay away from those companies? I have yet to see, and I did a lot of research on this in my book, which, by the way, I wrote back in 2009, and is still applicable to things that are going on today, because debt is just numbers, and numbers are just black and white, and they all add up, and they all say the same message they did back then as they do today. But these debt solution companies, debt settlement company, I mean, they're called all kinds of things, don't give you the real thing. In fact, one of the things that they do, which I think is horrible advice, and I also think it's high, well, I won't go there, but I think it's horrible advice. They will tell somebody to get into their program, they have to let all of their debts that are current debts go into default, which means that you stop paying the payments on it, and you let the credit card companies put you into collections, and then you let the credit card companies officially default as not payable. Now, why that is such bad advice is the fact that these debt solution companies can't prevent a creditor from filing a lawsuit against you. There's no way they can do that. They can make the debt collection calls go away at a certain point, but you can do that on your own. And they can't fix the damage that you've done to your credit report, because you just ruined your credit report for at least 7.5 years. And only time will fix it. So they can't clean up after the damage and put you back into good standing. You got to know that. I mean, it's one of the worst pieces of advice out there. In fact, I think they should be shut down for giving that kind of advice. And then there's I have studied these companies backwards and forwards, and it's just their business model is about making money at the consumer's expense. Now, having said that, to be fair, there could be an incredible debt consolidation, debt solutions company out there. I'm not claiming to have met and researched every single one of them. I'm just telling you what I found to be very, very consistent. So you want to stay away from that, and you want to make sure that you invest into a real debt consolidation note. Okay, so the first step that you want to take is create an inventory of your debt. Most people don't know the simple facts. They might be able to tell you the payment. Probably not. They probably can't tell you the interest rate. And then they definitely can't tell you when it's going to pay off. And I talk about this in my book, Deceptive Money, how important that it is that you know your numbers when it comes to debt. And I'll tell you why, in particular, when we get back after this upcoming break. Hey, this is Bob Brooks, and you are listening to the Prudent Money Radio Show. Thank you so much for joining me today. If you got a question for me, go to the website, www.prudentmoney.com. We're up against a break. Stick around, and I'll be right back.
The Word for Today is excited to announce the new official online home for the ministry of Pastor Chuck Smith and Kay Smith, pastorchuck.org. At pastorchuck.org, you'll have instant access to thousands of hours of verse-by-verse teaching by Pastor Chuck Smith from Genesis through Revelation, and full access to special messages on subjects such as prophecy and much, much more. Also at pastorchuck.org, a full library of great teachings by Kay Smith, and a section where you can read some of Pastor Chuck's books online, all free of charge. So visit the new official online home of the Word for Today and the ministry of Pastor Chuck and Kay Smith, pastorchuck.org.
God's man may get in sin, but he will not stay there. That's what distinguishes him from the world, says Dr. J. Vernon McGee this week as we witness the prophet Nathan confront King David and his great sin. Join us as our journey through the Bible continues, and we're reminded that our secret sins are seen and dealt with by God.
Listen daily, 6:30 p.m. on Bible School Radio 91.3.
Dynamic, practical, life-changing.
There's no point in going to church and not letting the Christ who gave birth to the church on the day of Pentecost change your life.
Join us each day as Pastor Paul Shepherd applies the timeless truth of Scripture to everyday life. It's Destined for Victory on this great station.
Listen daily, 3:30 p.m. on Bible School Radio 91.3.
Welcome back. This is Bob Brooks, and you are listening to the Prudent Money Radio Show. Thanks so much for joining me today. You know I do appreciate it. I do have a topic I wanted to talk about, but I wanted to address debt consolidation because I felt it led to, and I felt it's important to share this information because everything's about debt today, and debt that's got out of control. And I tell you, it's one of the worst. There was a top 10 worst places for your life to be. It is in uncontrollable debt. I've met so many people in that situation, and it's not good. So anything we can do to help educate you, help you get to a place where you're debt-free is the goal. So it's really important that after you get your inventory of your debt down, that you watch your interest rates on any one of your debts that has a variable rate. You want to keep on tabs on that, because there's still people who have credit card balances that have not great rates, but much better than 20 and 21%. I mean, I would take 15 over 21% any day of the week. I'd take 10 over 21% any day of the week. Keep your eye on interest rates, because as interest rates go up and are raised by the Federal Reserve Board, interest rates go up on this credit card debt as well, or it can. So keep an eye on interest rates and make sure that you're watching for that. The third thing that you want to do is keep a close eye on your credit reports. If your goal is to get out of debt, you got to make sure at all times that everything on that credit report, there's 3 of them, TransUnion, Experian, and let's see, TransUnion, Experian, and what's the third one? Equifax. There it comes. Equifax. They all have a credit report on you, and you want to make sure that everything is right and correct. Now, when I say right and correct, there might be negative information on there that you don't like, but it's correct. You got to keep it. Obviously, you want to keep it. You have to keep it there anyway. Just make sure that everything is accurate. If you see a debt on there that's not yours, write the credit bureaus and have them investigate it and get it removed, and do what you have to do to make sure that everything is correct. Whether you like it or not, it's still correct. Debt consolidation companies that issue a real debt consolidation loan are going to be higher in interest rate. This is why you want to create an inventory of your debt, is because you want to look at what if you combine, let's say, 5 debts into one debt, you're going to get an average interest rate. This is what you're paying. So if you're paying an average interest rate of 12%, and a debt consolidation company that issues the real thing says, we'll give you a 5-year note for 14%, you don't want to do that. Now, you could make the argument that, hey, interest rates are going up, this one's locked in. I could see that. Just like any of this, and I sometimes think that this is an assumption that everybody is doing, and I would have to say the same thing for me, which is not always the case, because we forget. Make sure that you're praying your way through the situation, and you're inviting God to be a part of it, to help you make the right decisions. So that would be one of those, should I pay a couple of extra interest rate points versus take the chance and the risk of these interest rates going up and really creating a problem? So that is, you always want to compare your average interest rate against the interest rate that they are offering if you're fortunate enough to get a note. Here's another thing you can do. If you got, say, 3 or 4 credit cards, work to pay, and hopefully this is ideal, that you always want to pay more money to the highest interest rate debt, and always the extra money towards the highest interest rate. That's one way to do it. The other way to do it is to pay the smallest ones off first, so that you can get some momentum. I will tell you that paying the highest interest rate off first is going to get you out of debt faster, and you're going to pay less in interest as opposed to the other type of payoff method. Where that second payoff method might benefit you is that you pay one of these debts off, you have a zero balance, and then there's a good chance that, maybe over the next 3 to 6 months, they send you an offer to consolidate your debt on their credit card at 0% for, say, 12 to 18 months. Well, that's not a bad deal. No, and you can pay more money off to the 0% debt. Of course, you always have to pay something like a 3% transfer fee, which is really a cost of debt. So if you have $10,000 and you transfer it over to a 0% for 12 months and you pay 3%, well, that's the equivalent to having a interest rate of 3% for that 1 year. Still, that's better than what you would be paying. So you can always switch and move money around. One thing is for sure, you definitely do not want to miss a payment. I have known people who have tremendous amounts of debt, and they have been able to salvage their credit score, keep it as a good credit score because of one thing. They always pay their debts on time, their payments always on time. And that is crucial because as long as that's a strength of your credit report that shows that, hey, if we lend Joe some money, his history tells us that he pays that money off like clockwork. And that's what you want. One of the things that you never want to do is ever, once you pay a card off, don't ever close those cards. Keep them open. And there's a reason for that. It's because the more unused credit lines that you have available to you that has zero on them, the lower your credit utilization ratio on your credit report is, which is extremely positive for your overall score. If you close down a card with, let's say, $15,000 worth of credit limit, and that credit limit no longer exceeds, then it pushes that credit utilization ratio up. And the higher that credit utilization rate goes, the worst of a more negative effect it is on your credit score. So you have to really look at that and just make sure that you're paying on time. Then finally, evaluate your value of your home, the interest rates you're paying on your home, and the equity that you have in your home, because there's all kinds of different ways on the equity side to consolidate, take a loan out against your house and consolidate it and pay those credit cards off in one payment, just like a consolidation note. The only thing that you do not want to do is, let's say that you have $100,000 left on a $300,000 home, and you want to borrow $50,000. Well, that $100,000 note that you have, let's say that you have that at 3.5%. Well, you certainly don't want to refinance a note to the point that your interest rate bumps up to 5% just to get that debt consolidation to happen. So you want to make sure that you're bettering yourself versus making your situation worse. So you want to be real careful. It's all about interest rates. Interest rates are going up. Interest rates are at the foundation of all debt. And they are either a good thing, like they've been for years because they were so low, or they're a bad thing, which they're starting to become today. And so it's very important that you make sure that you are always paying the lowest possible interest rate that you have available to you. That's the key. Now, a lot of people and this happens with these debt solution companies, they get sucked into the convenience, and that's all it is convenience of making one payment. Because if you've got 8, 9, 10 debts, and you're making those payments every month, it's a emotionally tough situation to look at that every single month. In fact, most people tend to ignore it. They make the payment and they shred the document and they go forward and they don't check anything else on as far as how the note's set up or anything. You don't ever want to do something for convenience sake. A consolidation loan, yeah, it does give you one payment, but you want to make sure that the numbers work and that you are getting a better deal because of it. Tough situation, and credit card use is rising rapidly right now, which is a real problem. And the bigger problem is that it's happening to people at much, much higher interest rates. So just be careful. And we'll get back to the rapidly rising and falling prices of inflation maybe Thursday of this week, and we'll talk about that. Hey, this is Bob Brooks. If you got a question for me, please go to the website at www.prudentmoney.com and send it in, because we are all out of time. Till we do meet again next time, keep the faith and have a great rest of the day.
That's all the time we have for today. Questions or comments for Bob, or to find out more great information like what you've just heard, visit www.prudentmoney.com. Be sure to join Bob Brooks again for the next edition of Prudent Money.